Facebook.
Go Vikings, play your backups. Go Vikings. Try to not talk.
This is bravery, heart, determination, smarts, masterpiece, moves just like a work of art. We are renegades, relentless, swinging for the fences. Competition never, you must be out of your senses. Whole team greatness, we never warming the benches. Tickets gon' sell out, cheap and expensive. Dynasty, kingdom, legacy, legend. The only one to stop us gotta come down from heaven. You know that we came to fight soon as they turned on the lights. Hope you said your prayers tonight. Now it's time to testify. And we do this over time. Ain't no need to wonder why. Every day and every night, be the greatest one alive. Be the greatest one alive. We going hard soon as they turn on the lights. I hope you ready, cause we came to fight. Win every day, we gotta win every night. I hope you ready, cause we came to fight. We going hard soon as they turn on the lights. I hope you ready, cause we came to fight. Win every day, we gotta win every night. I hope you ready, cause we came to fight. This is epicness, glorious, undefeated, victorious. Courage, audacity, the prey and the warriors. Boldness, great, the brave hearts, guts. 10,000 hours mixed with a little luck. We are fearless, audacious, humble, patient, opposite of complacent. Your bets here are the safest. Dynasty, kingdom, legacy, legend. The only one to stop us gotta come down from heaven. You know that we came to fight soon as they turn on the lights. Hope you said your prayers tonight. Now it's time to testify. And we do this over time. Ain't no need to wonder why. Every day and every night, be the greatest one alive. I'ma be the greatest one alive. We going hard soon as they turn on the lights. I hope you ready, cause we came to fight. Win every day, we gotta win every night. I hope you ready, cause we came to fight. We going hard soon as they turn on the lights. I hope you ready, cause we came to fight. Win every day, we gotta win every night. I hope you ready, cause we came to fight.
Now what we gonna do right here is settle the score. Look around you. We got a whole room full of monsters. We gonna shut it down like this. Let's go. Yeah. The tricks of the trade, the rules of the game. I've been to the top and I've been to the bottom. I tell you they look about the same. I can speak about comfort, I can speak about pain. You wanna come do this, study my movements, go up and sit in the grain. See, I never heard of vacations, bro, that word to me is insane. I'd rather put hands in the dirt as I put in the work and watch suckers complain. Cause on it regardless, who go the hardest? Whole family is just chock full of ballers. Who wanna tell them I never been there? I step in the circle, just know I'm prepared. I win or I learn, I never will lose. The fork in the road, which one will you choose? Look, the people need answers. You ready to dance? This one for the champs. The blood, sweat, and tears of my stripes. I only tell stories of fights. You learn that the struggle is part of the hustle. Don't ever mistake them as gripes. First I hit them with lefts, then I hit them with rights. After all that I've been through, I gotta continue to cut through that bull with a knife. You holding me up, so I'm rising. You want me to fail, well, surprised. I'm addicted to winning, so since the beginning, I only focus on horizons. Only recordings, who go the hardest? Whole family is the chock full of ballers. Who wanna tell them I never been there? I step in the circle, just know I'm prepared. I win or I learn, I never will lose. The fork in the road, which one will you choose?
Takes a while to
Here
set.
we go. We have no cameras yet, but we're getting there. Cameras, all four of us. All right, here we go. Active speaker turned off. Wait a minute.
There's three of us.
I see. Yeah, but I'm
Stop
seeing
it,
only two, three, two, one,
What?
four. Hut. Where the hell is?
Jeez.
There's Ted. There's not Ted. Okay. Oh boy, Ecamm's working great. I gotta love this. Doom. Why is it showing 4 when it should only be showing 3
Oh, but I
screens?
see Susan's shoulder, and that's all that
There we
matters.
go. We want to welcome everybody to Good Morning Gallahorn Vikings versus Bears editions in the Raw. With me today is Drew and Ted, as usual, my partners on this wonderful podcast / video show to break down all you saw today in week 17 against the Bears, which was a game that was actually meaningless when it came to standings, but it wasn't meaningless to us fans and the players we watched, and especially in our hearts. How you doing tonight, Drew?
Good. I'm kind of wondering what's going on in that Lions game right now because I want to know what we're live, right? We're live with that game too.
We are live with that game. I've got.
Maybe we could sprinkle in a little play-by-play, Mr.
Yeah.
Dick Stockton. If you're,
I'm streaming. I've got 33 seconds left. Packers have the ball. Game's tied 22-20 or 20-20. Pardon me. They kick a run. Don't go anywhere. So it is now second and probably about 8. But anyways, how you doing, Ted?
Terrible.
Terrible. You've
Awful
had
weekend.
a rough weekend, and our heartfelt condolences to your team.
yeah,
Whatever.
I
I hate football.
I feel shitty about it. Sorry, dude.
No, you're not. I hate football. Football's awful. Football just sucks. man.
I say that a lot during the year too.
So,
But
hey, it happens.
at
Still
least you're not
waiting
playing
on-
in the
we got-
Jumanji Bowl like Michigan.
We got 29 seconds left, and the big deal about the Packers.
Are they in field goal
Lions,
range or aren't they? Fuck.
They are now. The Packers
Oh.
Lions game is if the Packers would have lost, we would have gone to Green Bay. Everything would be settled. If the Packers win, we have to wait on tonight's game between Seattle and San Francisco to figure out where we're going.
Which could either be the Saints.
That's the least likely.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me ask you guys this question.
Ask.
Doesn't matter. No,
You want
seriously,
my
doesn't matter.
Do you want my real
Well-
answer, or the fans don't call in and say Drew's a horrible fan? Drew's a horrible fan.
Call me a horrible fan. What has this team done on the road to make you think they'll win in Green Bay, Seattle, or New Orleans?
Well, they've come close to beating Green Bay this year, and they've come close to beating Seattle.
Whoa.
Jeez.
So that's why.
Well, the most recent edition of Green Bay and Minnesota was a boat race on national TV at home
I'm just saying,
with everything to play for.
the two they could beat are Seattle and Green Bay. Seattle has a problem with their running game, right? To the fact that they had to bring in Marshawn Lynch this week. So that is the most likely. So we'll see.
Ted, you want me to answer your question with a Drew stat?
Yeah.
Now that we got through all that, we came close to beating them stuff. The Vikings, their last 16 road playoff games are 2-14. So they have to win 3 straight.
Packers won, so it's either New Orleans or Seattle next week, boys.
Okay, you're ahead of me. So, okay. Gotcha. They made the kick.
Oh, sorry to spoil it, but the Packers win.
Okay.
So if Seattle wins, we go to Seattle. Am I right? I'm
Correct.
guessing.
That is correct.
And if the Niners beat Seattle, we go to New Orleans.
If the so if
A
the
better
40,
chance to beat Seattle. Who do you think, Ted?
what think about what?
I mean,
Seahawks or Saints?
I mean, yeah.
Seattle's.
It's like I'm asking you, would you
Should be
rather
the
have
easiest.
lethal injection or the electric chair? I mean, I don't know how you're supposed to answer it, but who would you rather play?
I don't know. They haven't. They haven't. They've never beaten. They have never beaten the Pete Carroll Seahawks, have they?
No, not with Zimmer.
No.
Not in regular season.
And they got to go to New Orleans and face Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. Really?
No, I know both games
I
are
mean-
a pain in the ass, but
I'd rather go to
either cut off my left arm or my left leg. I don't know which would hurt more.
I'd rather go to Seattle. So I'm rooting for Seattle tonight's game. That's just Dave's opinion. Gives us a better chance. Because we may lose by 2 instead of by 14. So difference that way.
you know,
I mean, I appreciate your optimism, buddy. I really do.
I don't think it's optimism. I think it's fucking hops and ale. I think
Well, that could be too. It is a sweet one this
at
week.
least I think, guys, the way the offense has been playing, even back at the Charger game, it wasn't clicking. The Vikings have had what, five or six touchdowns over the last 3 games total.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I don't think the offense has been playing good the last month. Don't just look at the last Monday night game. The offense is not. It's going backwards, in my opinion. The way the offense play calling is going right now, I don't feel good about going into the playoffs next week, regardless if we're playing either of those teams.
You know what concerns me? You know why the Vikings lost this game today?
Why is that?
If you look at Kirk Cousins' stat line, he had 0 yards passing. I think you got to pin this loss on him, to be quite honest.
It is his fault.
It's Kirk's fault. He was bad, Kirk, today.
No, Drew, you bring up a good point. The Vikings offense really has not really been in sync. And maybe it's because Dalvin Cook has sort of been in and out of the lineup with injuries and all that. Hopefully weeks off and some rest. And same with Alexander Madison. I mean, they have been a really good 1-2 punch all season that will help. It should help. I mean, if Cook is healthy. But what did Dalvin Cook do against Seattle in that Monday night game?
Nothing, really.
I mean, they were down.
He was hurt, wasn't he?
Were it not for a broken coverage that resulted in a Laquan Treadwell, 60-yard touchdown or whatever it was. Seriously, they wouldn't have been in a position to win that game at the end. So I mean, I don't know. I've been down this road before with this team. I've 40,000 times it feels like. And so, I will say, for those of you that are looking for a shred of optimism, when I've been the most down about this team in the postseason is when they have surprised me the most.
That's very true.
That usually, I mean, that happens sometimes. So maybe they'll get a win or two, and we'll all jump back on the bandwagon, and they'll get absolutely smoked in the divisional round of the NFC Championship. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
The Vikings have had a tendency the last 2 or 3 years to make the score look a lot more respectable than how the game played out. All right. They last 2 minutes, they put up a couple touchdowns or a touchdown and a field goal and bring the score within 8 or 5. And then everybody goes, well, they only lost 25-20, or what, like the Bears game, or like Ted just mentioned in Seattle, completely one-sided all the way down till, I just wish they could get that started earlier. But that shred of optimism you just gave me, dude, how many times have we thought we don't have any kind of a chance, and we actually play better with no pressure on us? So
yeah. I mean, so we'll see. I just, and with that Seattle game, the Vikings lost at 37-31, and they had the ball. The offense had the ball with just under 2 minutes or just right at 2 minutes to go, and they had an opportunity to go down the field and score, and they didn't get it done. I mean, Seattle's gotten a heck of a lot more banged up in the last couple of weeks. I mean, they're trotting out Marshawn Lynch tonight
now
as RB1.
Speaking of injuries, it looks like everybody's going to be healthy that was hurt. Now, that does not include any injuries today during the game. And I saw that Mac Alexander went out with a knee.
he was already hurt. He should have never been playing. Wasn't that whole idea to rest the hurt guys? I mean, I don't get it.
Well, and
I don't get it.
They were playing Curse back there at safety instead of Big Nickel, so they needed somebody at nickel. But speaking of today's game, it was the backups. There was very few starters in there. What did you think of any of the play of the backups? Did any of them strike your fancy?
I got one question coming back to you guys. What is the deal with Boone last week against? I mean, the Bears are a better run defense than that team from Wisconsin. They are. They're ranked right up there. What the hell is what? Isn't football a weird thing? I mean, he couldn't do any of that last Monday.
And how
Yeah,
many
I know.
yards did he have today? 100 and...
Oh, 130 or 140?
No, he was over that. He was like 160.
Is it just a football thing, or
Says
what do you guys attribute
148.
that to?
Had 148. Did he
and a
really?
touchdown. What do you have last week? 12? I mean,
Yeah,
37,
something
I
like that.
so why? It's just
Stage
strange. It's
fright
strange
for
to me.
getting the start, maybe.
Well,
I-
I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. I will say, the Vikings playing mostly backups played a pretty spirited game. I didn't think it would be anywhere near as entertaining as it turned out to be in the end. The first half sort of unfolded exactly like I thought. A couple field goals. Offense looked pretty bad. You know, the turnovers, they just looked shaky.
Yeah.
But you know, Hollins had a nice catch there in the second half.
He did.
Fedi Adenabo had another good game, had another sack. I thought there wasn't enough evidence to overturn that fumble return that he had for a touchdown, but you know, fumble returns for touchdowns apparently just seem to get overturned from my favorite teams this weekend. So whatever.
I did think about that when that
Speaking
happened.
of good news,
You gotta give a big shout out to that backup defensive line, don't you? I mean, all
They
of them
did.
right
They
down
played
the-
a pretty good game. Yeah, they did.
speaking of good news, Mary wants to thank us for great shows this season. Also, William E. has joined us tonight. We appreciate you guys joining the show. Now,
Thanks,
you talk
people.
about good shows. I liked Ali Udo. Udo got a
What?
Udo playing tackle on the offensive side.
Big boy from Elon.
Yeah. He got a penalty late for
Oh, it was a shit call.
it was a shit call for excessive roughing.
Terrible.
But at that point as an O-line coach, I'd say do it again. He played well. He got a holding call against Mac as well, but which I thought was ticky-tack when you looked at the replay. But I thought he played well for himself,
Wait,
and it
Dave.
shows future.
So you would tell an offensive lineman to commit another personal foul penalty and take the Vikings out of potential
Yeah,
scoring
if
a
I thought it
touchdown
was
and settle for a
tic-tac,
field
and if
goal.
I thought the advantage of the attitude coming with it was...
You'll fit
the
right
best.
in on this Mike Zimmer staff.
I'm sure I would. I'm sure I would.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
William says,
Can I bring something up to the floor here?
Bring it
Go
up to
ahead.
the floor. Let it be law.
So the Vikings missed the playoffs last year at 8-7-1,
Right.
and they were 1-2-1 against the Bears and the Packers.
Mhm.
Take that tie, turn it into a win. Take any one of those losses, turn it into a win, and at a minimum, the Vikings are going to the playoffs.
Mhm.
I would argue in 3 of the 4 this year they went 0-4 against the Bears and Packers.
Oh my God.
I would argue in 3 of those 4 games, well, 2 of the 4. No, 3 of the 4. 3 of the 4 games. Even that Monday night game, they were leading at halftime. 3 of those 4 games, I would argue they could have won.
Mhm.
So in 2 years, the Minnesota Vikings have gone 1-1 against their 2 biggest rivals in the division. And that is the reason they didn't go to the playoffs last year and the reason they didn't win the division this year. And if you don't get that ugly mug shirt out of my face, I'm going to leave this
How about
podcast.
to say I could turn off his camera?
No, I'm just pointing out it's similar to that guy with Ohio State, isn't it?
Oh, I thought you were advocating for Harbaugh to come be the Vikings next.
No, I was advocating for Jim
Oh.
Harbaugh not winning any fucking important. I mean, getting ruled by people. That's
just-
what I meant.
I mean, I don't know. That's a good. That's actually a good comparison. I don't know that there's any more of an indictment on this coaching staff than that. You can boil
Than the
down
fact-
other games and other moments and other parts of the season and other wins, but in the NFL, if you don't win the games in your division, you're not going to win your division.
And that was Denny Green's philosophy was if I win the division, I most likely will make the playoffs. And so he went with the Air Coryell. Well, hey, he went with the Air
Okay, Booger.
Coryell
You know,
offense
if you
when
win your
everybody
division,
else
you're
was
going to go to
playing.
the playoffs.
Well, yeah, but that was his focus. Beat the teams
Booger
in the
Stefano.
division first. You do that, most likely you're winning other games and you're making the playoffs. But
If
you
you
got
finish
to
with
beat
more
the
points,
teams in the
winning that
division.
fucking game. Let me tell you.
Hey, Zimmer is what? Under
Oh, he froze.
Nagy
They
and
froze up.
LaFleur,
Look at his face.
Zimmer is 0-6.
Whatever Ted just said he was. 1-6.
1-5-1. No, 0-4 this year. 1-2-1
He
last
lost?
year.
Okay.
So 1-6-1 the last 2 years against the Packers and the Bears.
Yeah,
Let's
but
go
is
ahead
that against
about how he beat
Nagy
the
and
Lions and the
LaFleur?
Giants.
LaFleur.
What? Say that again.
Nagy's been the coach for the Bears 2 years, right?
0-4 against Nagy.
Oh, and LaFleur, he's 0-2.
So yeah,
That's,
I mean
Wow.
that's bad.
that-
That's really
that just
bad.
it just seems unacceptable for the senior member in the NFC North in terms of head coaching tenure is Mike Zimmer, because Patricia's in year 2, Zimmer's in year 6, Nagy's in year 2, LaFleur's in year 1. With the talent, the Vikings. Now, if the Vikings were coming off like a horrible rebuilding and Zimmer was in his first or second year, okay, maybe. But when you're in your 6th year, you've gotten every single defensive player you've wanted. You've went out and got the quarterback you wanted. You've gotten the receivers and retained the receivers and drafted well and got playmakers on offense. And, you know, you're 1-6-1 in the last 2 years. The Packers got to buy, but whatever, man. I don't know. I'm really kind of fed up with this team. They should be a lot better than 10-6.
Billy the Kid suggests that Zimmer is turning into chili and that the fans will revolt next season.
No, I don't think so. I don't think. See, Zimmer's a good coach. I mean, I did that TED talk, and he beats the bad teams. I mean, Chile at the end couldn't even beat bad teams. They were getting housed by bad teams, and Zimmer does enough. He does enough to make you think the Vikings can be competitive, and we'll see. I mean, they're in the playoffs. Okay, 3rd time in 6 years.
Should be 4 minimum.
Why?
They should have made it last year, but they sucked it up at the end. But I'm just saying.
They didn't after that season-ending game against the Bears last year. They didn't deserve to go to the playoffs.
Well, I agree, but they should have won. Yeah, why they didn't is failure, and failure seems to be the key to the Minnesota Vikings as of late. So we'll see.
Failure.
What else do you describe?
Yep. Boy, that's a legacy, isn't it? Failure.
Hey, get your hopes up, just to stab you in the heart. That's the way it works. That's being a Vikings fan.
Yeah, I think I got better things to do with my Sundays than to get stabbed in the heart by this football team. Honest to God.
Beats Matt Patricia every time he plays him, though.
Well, yeah.
So let's just sit back and talk about all these useless wins that he gets. That seems to make everybody
they're not useless.
Deflect all the important things and everything Ted just said. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do after a certain amount of time? It's a pattern. Everything becomes a pattern. How you coach,
after the
how
pattern,
games are played.
You get rid of them. I think that's going to be next year. I don't think he gets fired this season. I think next season is when everybody gets shown the door.
You really feel like the Vikings are a greasy Italian tank ready to run through anybody at this point?
No. I wish they were, but no.
This is why I didn't think they should have rested their starters today. I thought, I mean, and then when you saw how Mike Boone started off running the game and the defense was actually pretty good in the first half. keeping the Bears out of the end zone on what they had two or three red zone attempts. They held them to field goals. I felt that the Bears really weren't all there, and if the Vikings had brought the starters on 2 or 3 possessions, got a couple touchdowns, maybe even 17 points, I would have felt a lot better about this team heading into the playoffs next week than I do right now. I mean, this game told us nothing about how this team is prepared mentally for next week.
Oh,
Did not tell us a thing. And believe me, the people that are standing on their soapbox talking about what a genius decision is to rest the starters, when we have 1 first down in the second quarter, they'll be the same people bitching about how we should have played them.
Yeah.
Will be. Well, it's same thing.
We have a new watcher. AFC Young says if the talent on this roster doesn't produce, it's on Zimmer.
Good, Dave. I'll let you field that one. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I've thought about this a lot.
And it's Mannion's fault.
Goddamn Spielman.
You gotta say not every. You can't blame the coach on everything, because if he has a Pop Warner team level worth of players, it's not obviously not him to get him into pro level play. But if you have pro level players and a Pop Warner level coach, then it is on the coach. Now the question is, where in that spectrum does Zimmer apply? Does he have the talent? That's the outstanding talent? Well,
Yes,
we know that that's not across the board that he does. He does in key positions, but he doesn't across the board.
If you want to make a list, let's make a list right now. You could check the list of talent.
How many Pro Bowl offensive linemen do we have? 0.
Pro Bowls can't go by that. Pro Bowl's a fucking joke.
Let's go All-American then, or All-Pro. Let's go All-Pro, or top 10% linemen. Let's go top 10% linemen, and how many do we have? We don't, right? And everybody froze. How many top 10%? We don't. We do have players that play top 10%. They're mostly on defense. But
don't make me do it.
But a coach, even if he doesn't have top talent, should be able to generate more wins than his talent level. Has Zimmer generated more wins than his talent level? That's the question. And the answer right now is it doesn't look that way.
I've said this many, many times. The talent in the NFL, with maybe the exception of the top 1 or 2 teams and the bottom 1 or 2 teams, is all 8-8. Everybody's pretty much an 8-8 team in terms of talent. Everybody's got former All-Americans, former All-Conference this, former All-Conference that. Everybody does. What you do with that talent is the difference between 4-12 and 12-4. You put a different coach on the Browns, I guarantee you they're a 10 or 11 win football team. They've got first round picks and high priced superstars, and they look like.
And there we go with the freezing again. I love solar flares, right, Chris?
I think their offensive line, although they don't have an all-pro offensive lineman, they are demonstrably better than they were last year. You've got left to right, you've got a former first-round pick, a third-round pick, a first-round pick. I can't remember where Klein was drafted, and a second-round pick. And they're all playing, for the most part, fairly decent football.
That's Klein was a free agent. You're going by pick level. Don't go by pick level. Go by performance.
I said they're all performing at least at a league average level. I think PFF had them in a top 15 offensive line level, earlier this year.
But that's not a top 10% level.
All things being equal, if you have a league average line, buy your $28 million a year quarterback time to throw to a superstar wide receiver in Stephon Diggs and a superstar wide receiver in Adam Thielen and a guy that's probably going to go down as the best tight end in Vikings history in Kyle Rudolph, and a pretty good running back in Dalvin Cook, whose only knock on him is injuries. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You can't say that the offensive line is the problem of this offense.
David?
No, it's not the whole problem.
Give me
citing that as one of the problems. You guys are freezing up again. It's frustrating.
Just mentioned.
Say that again, Drew. You froze up.
Give me, out of the teams that are in the NFC playoff pool, look at the offensive side of the ball, both wide receivers, the players that Ted just mentioned, 2 wide receivers, tight end, Cook, and a quarterback, and right across the board, who's better set up than the Vikings?
Saints.
Okay, who's the Saints' 2 wide receivers?
Michael Thomas and
they got Alvin Kamara.
I think it's Ted Ginn, isn't it?
Yeah, but they got a better quarterback that makes better decisions under pressure. I'm not talking total stats.
What
Kirk
about
Cousins
the Niners?
is a stat hog.
What about the 49ers?
On offense?
The answer is no.
No.
What about the Seahawks? They're down to running back 4 or a guy.
Yeah.
They're down to running back 4 or a guy who was handing out beers at a Raiders tailgate 2 weeks ago.
But
Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? The Vikings aren't. They're the 6th seed, but they're no on the offensive side of the ball. They should nowhere be the sixth best offense that's going into the playoffs. I don't think.
Right, and I agree with you 100%. They should be playing better than they are. Why aren't they?
Then,
are you saying it's Zimmer? He doesn't call the offense.
So then, if you have
He's
the
in
talent,
charge
like
overall,
Drew and I are
he
saying,
doesn't call the offense.
But that talent is underperforming.
But
it's the
Dave,
GM's fault.
That's where we come into this.
This team should not
I'm
be 10-6.
No, you always say he doesn't call the plays.
He's
He's not the offensive coordinator. Who's responsible for hiring the offensive coordinator? So if I have a cook that's cooking at my restaurant making people fucking sick, you know what? The people are going to come back and say, "Hey, Drew's Bistro, that place will make you give you butt pee." They're going to bitch at me, not my fucking cook.
Well,
me.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you.
He hasn't. He's responsible for what Stefanski does.
He hasn't put together that winning,
Dave,
dominating
you were literally just
team,
disagreeing.
except for Sherman. Hey, maybe we'll get Pat Shurmur back and Stefanski will go on.
I tell you gotta. If we're gonna talk about head coaches in football, you gotta take your heart out of it. You can't just. You gotta talk. Leave it on football terms. All football. Don't think about just Zimmer if you like him. Just think about football.
But what I'm saying, there's a flaw in that, and that is the talent level below you. You can't make 4th graders play at the level of 8th graders just because you're the coach.
So you're telling me Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs are 4th graders?
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying they're the greatest in the world either. I'm saying hey, don't give me that. What playoffs has Kirk Cousins made? Where has he come and put the team on his back? Drew was complaining that Kirk Cousins, when everything goes south, he swirls down the toilet bowl, right?
That's kind of.
All right. When has he stepped up and said, "Hey, I'm going to be Drew Brees. I'm going to be Tom Brady. I'm going to take this team. I'm going to be Brett Favre and take this team"? He hasn't, right? He's a stat whore. He throws up stats in garbage time. So
he wasn't.
It's not that same quality.
He was never that guy to begin with.
I agree. He was never, and I think it was a mistake to sign him. I always said that from the beginning. But
the Vikings, if the Vikings know that he's not that guy, and then they sign him, you certainly can't bitch about him not being Favre now. You can't. If he wasn't beforehand, how can you bitch about it now?
Right, but who was against the signing at the time? As reported, that was a 3-person decision between Wilfs, Spielman, and Zimmer. And Zimmer was the guy that didn't want him.
Who's Spielman?
Spielman. Rick Spielman.
Spielman!
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out what's happening this Sunday, I guess.
So I've been thinking about the era a lot lately. And do you guys remember when Tony Dungy became the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the mid-'90s to the early 2000s?
In the creamsicle days, yeah.
He took the Buccaneers that had been the joke of the NFL for a very long time and made them competitive and got them to the playoffs consistently, but he could never get them over the hump.
Right.
They let him go after another playoff loss, and
And
to Tony
traded
Dungy's
for
benefit, to Tony Dungy's credit, he went off to the Indianapolis Colts and won a Super Bowl there. But the Buccaneers hired John Gruden, and they won a Super Bowl
the
in
next
his
year.
first year as a head coach with Brad Johnson as their quarterback.
And an awesome
I don't know,
defense.
man. It just seems to me that Mike Zimmer has gotten his way on 9% of the personnel calls, and he's gotten everybody on defense he's wanted.
Just
And
yes.
the defense is his baby, and it's his whole ball of wax on that side of the ball. And they were elite for a couple years, but now they're just pretty good. So I don't know, man. I at some point, coaching has to be called into question here.
There's rumor that Dallas wants to trade for Zimmer.
That is a made-up rumor between
Come
Blogging
on.
the Boys and Score North. That is a completely
By the way,
made-up rumor.
Dave, Dungy was nowhere near the creamsicle era. They're already well into pewter by then.
Were they?
Wanted to clear that. Yes.
I thought
That's
it was
with all
the very end of the
Allstott
creamsicle.
and Warwick Dunn and Derek Brooks and John Lynch. You talk to all those guys, to a man, they'll say this Dungy's was the guy that architected our team. It was Gruden got the Super Bowl, but it's kind of Ted's got me thinking maybe I should get on the horn to old Tony Dungy and say, "Come on, man, maybe you could take this team over the top."
I mean,
hey, maybe Zimmer goes to Dallas, and then you get that offensive coach that comes in and brings that last little bit and wins us a Super Bowl. I'm for that. I can deal with that.
My whole point to this is it just feels the last 2 years.
He's here next year. They're tied to Kirk Cousins. He and Spielman.
Come back.
Again.
Dave, it looks like you're back. So
okay.
Well, that question froze him, didn't it?
No, it recorded on my end. I said, even if they're one and done, he's back next year with Spielman. Spielman and him are tied with Kirk Cousins at the end.
I do agree with that. I absolutely agree that I don't think.
I agree with that too. I asked him, what does he think? Like I asked you what you thought, Ted. I mean, what do you?
Should he come back?
Would you like to see him back as head coach?
Yeah, because I think a new coach after this year would be disastrous. I think we'd go into another cycle of sucking. But at least we make the playoffs now. Making the playoffs and one and done. So we select in the low 20s when it comes to draft time. Does that get anybody that helps us? It should, theoretically, yes, it gets somebody that plays and starts. But it doesn't give us the quarterback that we need. Does it get it whomever? The Vikings have been in this situation most of their lives.
Today.
They've been in playoffs half their time.
I am not feeling all that hot today. I am sick of being king of the dipshits. I'm going to go on record to say I'm sick of being right in the middle, just above the middle. We're the team right above.
We're the one that gets in but never does anything. And you guys froze again. God, love this.
Does it feel like we're a caliber team like the rest of these guys? It doesn't. I mean, I hope they prove me wrong next Sunday and come out and kick ass. But the last 3 weeks, I mean, that Charger game was great with the 7 turnovers. I was celebrating. It was fun to watch. But the last Monday and today was just nothing. You can mark that as an X in the box. It doesn't really go either way. I was kind of happy with what I saw today.
It was like a preseason game.
It was it was more entertaining. Like Ted said, the first half was kind of boring. And then the second half, I was actually into it thinking, come on, back up, win the game, back up, show the Bears starters. If the Vikings backups beat the Bears starters, that's kind of huge news with me. So I was kind of into it.
And they almost did. Bailey had a good day. Didn't miss any kicks. Gets his $1 million bonus.
He's well on his way to becoming a starter, a great player. I saw some good things on that side of the ball, but I'm just sick of hovering above the line of, I don't know.
Barely getting in and going 1-0.
I'm probably rambling. Sorry.
No, like when you were watching the game, it was kind of late in the second half, and they talked about the Vikings' recent playoff history, and the only good highlight, I mean, they showed the 2009 NFC Championship, the boat race in Green Bay, the Blair Walsh miss, and then they showed the Minneapolis Miracle. I mean, I'm whatever. I'm just sick of this team underperforming, and it just feels like they have underperformed again. They should be better than 10-6, but they're not. You could argue this team could easily be 14-2, and here we are at 10-6 as the 6th seed, and they're looking to try to do something only 3 teams in the Super Bowl era have done. I mean, right. I saw a quote on Twitter, Mike Zimmer.
And we're having issues again. Should come back.
Your team is more inconsistent than Midwest weather in December, Mike. That's why, not you, Mike. Whatever.
You haven't seen our best football. You know, if you want to
just need to play better.
Here's my question: what we saw last Monday night, how am I supposed to feel good about that going into the playoffs? Simple as that. 7 first downs. How do I feel good about that team going into the playoffs? You know, I'd feel better about it if they got out there today and made a couple drives. That would make me feel a little better about it. But after watching what we had last Monday, if you say there's no disconnect with the Vikings, you shouldn't look like that the last game of the season or second to last game of the season. You shouldn't be playing like that.
No,
Come on.
Not at home with potentially the division on the line. Arguably the biggest moment of the year, and they laid a complete egg. And now they're going to a bigger moment, and it's the playoffs.
Hey, but you got teams like Green Bay that almost got beat today. It took to the very last second before they won.
You know what almost got beat is, Dave?
No,
win.
But
hey,
I just say it.
Zimmer really say that? Other teams have done it?
He did. Yeah, I saw his tweet. Said, other teams have done it. Why not?
Literally, other teams have done it.
Go get me Tom Flores and Jimmy Plunkett. Go get them and bring them in here because I trust them more than I trust. I don't know. That's pretty rare.
I think it is 10 teams that have made it to the Super Bowl from that 6th seed. Only, was it 3 of them have won?
No. 4 teams, since they've gone to this 6-team format in the NFL.
1990.
4 teams have gone and won 3 road games and made it to the Super Bowl. 3 teams.
I think you're wrong. I think it's
3 teams. I'm not wrong.
4
First
teams
of all, I'm
have
not
won
wrong.
the Super Bowl.
4 teams since 1990. 4 teams since 1990 have gone on the road and won 3 road games and won the Super and gotten to the Super Bowl. 3 teams have won it. The last was 9 years ago when the Packers did it, and the Packers did it on the heels of an MVP year from Aaron Rodgers, who was absolutely playing out of his mind. If you want to, and then the Giants did it, I think, in 2007 when Eli Manning decided to eat some Hall of Fame
have done it
crackers
and all won
at the end of the year and went on an absolute run. Look, man, you can't those 2 teams. I think the other team was the Steelers, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But the bottom line is you had insanely hot quarterback play from Eli Manning and Aaron Rodgers. And I don't know what you think you watch with Kirk Cousins. It's not bad, but it's not, like you said earlier, Dave, hop on my shoulders and let's go win 3 road playoff games, boys. I don't see that. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm an idiot. Look, I'm first to admit I'm an idiot, but I don't think I'm wrong on this one. Could they win a game? Yeah. Sure.
The reason I mentioned the Raiders was I thought they were a wild card in 1980 when they played Dick Vermeil's Eagles. I thought they got in.
They only had to win 2 playoff games.
Okay.
Playoff system.
Sure, the Vikings can win. They play their best game, and the other team makes a bunch of fucking mistakes. It's our game.
Mm-hmm. I think if the Vikings play a good game, they don't have to play their best game. I think if they play the way they're capable of playing, they can win. It's been few and far between when both the offensive and defense have lined up and played their best football at the same time this year. You
know what the Vikings had today that they hadn't had in that Monday night game? They had a little bit of intensity and guys flying around. I like to see that. I wish I could see that out of the start. Wish I could have seen that last Monday, but there was a couple plays. Would Boyd stuff that guy behind the line of scrimmage on that wide receiver screen when he tackled him like 4 yards back?
Yeah.
He tackled him for a loss. You know what was cool about that play? all the other guys ran up to him, were like high-fiving him and jumping around. It was like he had just won some kind of it was nice to see. It's nice to see guys helping, backing each other and getting that's all that shit rolls. That's what they had a couple years ago on defense. They had that rolling aggression. Everybody was for each other.
Yeah.
There was a lot of intensity. The intensity on both sides of the ball, especially the offense, is what's really bothering me. Just seem to be lollygagging around. Shoulders are shrugged. No one good. Blah, blah. 3 and out. Let's go back to the sidelines. 3 and out. You got to have some fire going into Seattle, baby. You got to fire it up.
We'll talk about it in the preview, but I think there's an early tell with the Vikings and how they're going to do, and it's all based on the body language of one person.
Mm-hmm.
Are on it or not. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
I want to see if they're on it. Get on it, whatever it is.
Yep. Okay.
So
I was just looking up who's made it from the 6th seed. It's only 3 that have won. There's been more that's made it.
That's what I said. That's literally what I said. I said 4 have made it.
No, it's more than 4.
Since 1990, it's been 4.
Fucking. Hold on.
I love you guys, man.
No, it hasn't. It's been more.
Our team's getting 7 first downs. You guys are arguing about fucking wild card teams.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, if there was a long history of.
Oh, I'm not saying there's a history. I'm just saying that since 1990, you've had the Bills, the Broncos, the Titans, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Giants, and the Packers make it from the 6th seed.
To the Super Bowl.
To the Super Bowl. And only 3 of those won. You had a 4th before that, New England, in 85.
I guess what we can think of is, remember that 87 season, Ted and Dave? Remember we had to go into New Orleans for the opening game.
Mm-hmm.
None of us thought we were going to win that game. I think we were 9.5-point dogs.
Right.
And then Carter took that punt return back, and then it started rolling and rolling and rolling, and we rolled them 40 to whatever.
Was it Leo Lewis that scored that long Hail Mary touchdown right at halftime too?
Yes, it was Leo Lewis. I mean, everybody was rolling that day. Alan Rice. It just never went. We went in there and we shocked them, and then we took it the next week and we shocked the Niners.
Yeah.
We shocked them both in 87. I didn't think we had a shot in either of those games. So I'm trying to get myself into that mode of thought process going into these playoffs because I kind of feel the same way.
It's kind of what I feel now. I mean, when you feel the Vikings have absolutely no shot to do anything,
is when they pull
to make any noise, is when you sit up and go, holy crap, where has that team been all season? I mean, and they do, and I've said it all year. This Minnesota Vikings team, I fully believe, has the talent on this roster to compete for and win a Super Bowl. I do. They have been so inconsistent on offense and defense, and there has been very little time during the season when they have played very good complementary football. When they do it, man, it's a beautiful thing to watch. That second half of the Denver game, for example, the Atlanta game, the Raiders game, both Detroit games, when they're on, you're like, dude, nobody's going to beat this team. But when they're not, I don't think they can beat anybody. I mean, it's like this just weird, drastic 180-degree look at this team that just is probably the most frustrating thing for me of this season, because this is a team that's way better than 10-6. This is a team that should not be the 6th seed. They should be a lot higher, but here we are. And who do you blame that on?
TED Talk. Are the Vikings the most bipolar team in the league?
Yes. There you go.
Isn't it? I mean,
yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
With that, we need to wrap this puppy up. This is our last show of this year.
Nice face on the frozen. Sorry. You're froze for a second.
This is our last show of this year. Any final words?
Not really.
Uh,
It's been a blast.
hope everybody has a safe and happy New Year. I will probably celebrate mine from the comfort of my home. I'm probably in bed long before midnight. Oh no, my wife just mentioned to me from the other room we're hosting a New Year's Eve party.
Yay
Are you-
for Ted.
I might jump a plane. That might be a partay I need to partake of. No, wish everybody a safe New Year. It's been fun doing this show with you guys.
Yeah, it's been a good
and
time.
I hope when we do it, I hope we have 4 or 5 more shows left.
Yeah,
me
we
too.
will.
We'll see.
And no matter what happens in this season. But we hope we have the 2 more weeks, the pregame and the postgame, for a few more weeks yet.
We rule Seattle's spine. All we have to do is play better.
And win.
Other teams have done it. Why can't we do it?
That's right. With that, skull everybody. Have a happy New Year. Be safe. Don't go out on the roads with the amateurs.
Don't let your meatloaf, and I'll see all you cats on the flip flop.
See you next week.
Oh, you guys crack me up, dude.